Welcome to Podnutz Daily for September 17th, 2008, episode number 79. Okay, what do we have here on the list? I didn't really get a chance to look into this too much, but we were working on a computer today that in Vista, PC Tools looks like it's a program called ThreatFire. We tried to disable it in msconfig, and it would not let us disable it. I got to look more into ThreatFire. I wasn't working directly on that computer, but it appears it might have some kind of control in there to not let you disable it. I guess for your own protection? Not sure. Like I said before, we were having a check disk party on Sunday at the shop, and check disk has been like the greatest program this week. If I had to give like an MVP, I just made that up, most valuable program. If I had to give an MVP award out this week, it would go to check disk. I just ran check disk /r today on a disk that had unmountable boot volume error, the blue screen, fixed it right up. Now here's the problem. Though it did get the computer up and running, the computer still was dragging along kind of slow. When the customer brought this in, it was a desktop. They said the computer was fine. She had her whole office on dial-up. They were using dial-up internet. And they had finally decided to get FiOS. So the Verizon guy came in, hooked up FiOS to all the computers. On this one particular computer then, after he left, it just started running slower and slower and slower, and finally blue screened on unmountable boot volume. So she called and she's like, "Is this something you can just tell me to fix over the phone?" I'm like, "No, it sounds like your hard drive." So she brought it in, and we ran check disk /r, fixed it right up. At least Windows started anyway. Now, so Windows is just still dragging. It's still running a little slow. So I ran ctools for the first time. I wanted to try it yesterday, but I didn't have a chance. So I put in the disk in, ran ctools, and just ran a short drive test on ctools, and it failed the drive test. So she's going to need a new hard drive. The system's limping along right now, but it's not going to last like that for long. Also, a cool thing on ctools, and you guys mentioned this in the chat room, it does look like there's I don't know if the disk I actually have is bootable, or you can make a ctools bootable disk. That's an answer to AMD Man's question about what's a good bootable hard drive utility, like bootable from a disk hard drive utility to check the status of a drive. And it looks like ctools might do the job for that. Here's another nightmare of a computer I have today. A desktop. Customer brought it in. It's a VAIO. Some of the older VAIO desktops, Sony, I don't know if they still do it now, actually, but Sony likes to partition them in half right off the bat without, without even prompting the customer if they want to do that or not. The problem with partitioning a drive like that for most users is you have to tell the computer a lot of times if you have two partitions to put stuff on the drive D if you're running stuff from C. Like if your primary partition's C and your data partition's D, not a lot of people know that they have to prompt these programs to save their data on drive D. So what they end up doing is just eating up their drive C. Nothing gets saved to drive D, and they wonder why the computer's running so slow. That happened with this person. He had 15 megabytes left on a 100 gig hard drive. He had 15 megabytes left on C. So what I'm trying to do, and this is always tricky, is extending the C partition. And either doing away with the D partition or cutting some space out of the D partition. I'm using Vista to do it. My version of Partition Magic doesn't work. I tried a disk called Partition Logic. Now this is a free partitioning program I found online. I've probably tried using Partition Logic about 10 times in different situations. Not one time could I get that program to work. So I threw it in the trash today. If anybody has been getting that to work, you can either tell me what I'm doing wrong or just follow my advice and just throw that baby in the trash. If I'm not mistaken, Acronis Disk Director is a great program, and so is maybe the newest version of Partition Magic. I don't know what Norton's calling it these days. But I do have to run something on that tomorrow to get that fixed up. Unless somebody knows a good, easy-to-use, free partitioning program. There's Gparted. I don't know if that's very user-friendly. I don't have a lot of time to figure out a lot of command line code, so I'm open for advice on that. Give me a call later in the show if you have any suggestions. Okay. Customer called in today. My dad picked up the phone. The customer says her Ethernet disk blew up, and she replaced it, but the computer still doesn't work. And my dad goes, "Your Ethernet disk?" "Yeah, the Ethernet disk. The Ethernet disk, it plugs into the back of the computer. It blew up." Well, we have no clue what she's talking about. She's going to bring her computer in. It could either be an external hard drive or it could be an Ethernet switch. But she's very adamant it's her Ethernet disk. So what we will see, I might be learning tomorrow if such a thing exists. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But tomorrow we're going to see what the Ethernet disk is for real. I got in the motherboard on the Dell Inspiron 6000 that the eBay seller, Greetings and Computations, sent me promptly. I appreciate that for the fast service. Put that baby right into the computer, fired it up, everything was working fine. Now, this was a computer I thought may have been the processor that was bad. And the mistake I made was, at least with this customer, is like, look, I think it has a bad processor. I have to go in and check it. Well, I went in and checked it, and I found out it was the motherboard. So I called him back, and I said, it's not the processor, it's the motherboard. Well, and he's like, well, how much is the motherboard? And the motherboard's a lot more expensive than a processor. So I told him the price of the motherboard, which I quoted at like $2-something. And he's like, he came in, he was very unsure because I kind of shook his confidence by saying, first it was the processor, then it was the motherboard. You know, you have to be a little, I guess, skilled in the way you talk to people to make them instill confidence in yourself that you do know what you're doing and the parts that you want to order are the correct parts. Most customers are fine, but some of these picky customers will pick up on your hesitation there. So just when you're talking to your guys, just be sure that you know what you're talking about. You know what needs to be done. And even if you're not 100%, you have to instill confidence in the customer. That's one of the things I'd really like to try to do at the shop. Let me read a couple emails here, guys. I've been getting a lot of email. Well, not a lot. I've been getting some emails from people that are really blowing me away. They're really great. Some of the listeners, they're telling me that the show, Podnutz and Podnutz Daily, is revitalizing them in the whole IT field. And one in particular, I'm not going to read the whole email, but I'll read a couple. I guess I'll paraphrase it. And where is his email? And that, I get a kick out of that, guys. If you send me emails like that, I really appreciate you, letting me know that you appreciate the show. Okay, give me 1 second here, guys. I'm going to find it. I thought I had it queued up. Okay. And this is from Niall. Niall lives in the UK. From age 18 to 40, he worked in the IT field, initially as a programmer for the Ministry of Defense, and then through various roles leading to a 12-year stretch as a field service engineer with compact server accreditation. Towards the end of this period, I worked for a major IT... This is him saying this. Towards the end of this period, I worked for a major IT company who basically abused their staff. On many occasions, I would be sent out to repair equipment for which I had no experience or training, with the threat that if the customer found out they weren't getting a fully trained specialist that they had paid for, I would be the one in trouble.